Welcome back to Cherry Picking, and today you're going to see this 1966 Ford Country Sedan get back on the road. Oh, don't crash. That's right, today we're working on getting this thing back on the road. In the last video you saw it, we got this thing running and, well, it was too easy, really. But today probably won't go anywhere near as easy as that. So, yeah, that's cool. Anyways, what we're going to be working on is getting this thing nice, real nice, good even. We're going to do a full tune-up on this guy, oil change, spark plug wires, the whole works, including converting it to electronic ignition. That'll be pretty cool. We're also going to do a full brake service on this thing and redo all of the pads, all of the wheel cylinders, whatever needs to be done to get this thing stopping good. And lastly, we're going to be cleaning this thing up and out as much as we can because we need this thing to be nice. So we're going to be tearing into it, getting it as clean as possible on the inside, including that third row back there. We're going to be dealing with that extra tank situation. So, join along and let's get started. Now we're going to start off with cleaning out this thing. We already started cleaning it out a little bit last video, but today we got to get everything else that's left, including all the trash in the bottom of the floors, out. And what we're going to start by doing is just opening all the doors and letting this guy air out just a little bit. And once we get everything cleaned up, watch the door there. Once we get everything cleaned out of this thing, then we can take it over and give it a nice wash. Blow out all the dirt, vacuum out all the dirt, just take care of all the dirt. In here we got our water pump that we'll change on this video, as well as a fuel pump and a bunch of other parts. We got one of our headliner bows here and our license plates. Now one of the things that we're going to have to do in this video, has to do with this guy. This is actually our spare tire cover, pretty neat, but currently it's not being used as spare tire cover, it's being used as a gas tank cover. So we're going to tear that other gas tank out of there and basically take out all the gobbledygook mess that is a bunch of hoses. A bunch of these wires in here, no idea what they're for, but they're there. Can't lose any of these parts. These are all important screws. Probably should start a box. Got an air cleaner that I need to put back on. Oops. Bunch of tools in here too. Nice. Now in this box here is a care package of all the brake parts that we will need to get this thing, well, stopping again, as well as a power steering line that we can't use because it's the wrong size. So, neato. We've got our replacement taillight to fix that one that's broken back there. It's not perfect, but well, it was pretty cheap, so. This is actually our back window bracket that allows the back window to roll up and down. And I've got to actually fix it, which was a video that I had started and still haven't finished, because I have to weld back on one of our tracks because it had, well, rusted off. And this thing is extremely rusty, but it's probably the best one I'll find, so I'll make it work somehow. Yeah. Get this hose out of here and flip up our back seat. Well, there's what was one of the exhaust tips, or the exhaust tip. I don't know, and a water bottle. Now, as you can probably tell, this thing has seen probably much better days. And hopefully today, well, we can bring it back just a little bit of where it used to be. But as you can see, this seat, well, it's rough. Now, I do have a way that we're going to temporarily fix this seat in the future, and you already saw some of the foam that I'm going to be using just to lay as a pad basically on top of it. But we're going to be putting some pretty cool serapes in this thing, and I got some special ones that match this interior pretty well. So anyways, let's keep cleaning it out. Now, one of the coolest things you can find in cars that have been sitting a long time just like this is old paperwork, really, that gives you a history of what the car used to be. I've got a bunch of registration cards and things here from, well, 60s and 70s that were wrapped around the steering wheel, and it kind of disintegrated, sadly. But you can see right here, this one's from 1971, and the total fee is $22. I don't know if this is a registration card or what, but I believe it is. And, well, it's pretty insane that you have this stuff. So I'm gonna go ahead and keep all these documents and paperwork and anything else I find in this car that tells me more of the story, because really the history of it and the story around it is kind of a big reason that these cars are as cool as they are. Now, even though this seat is going to get some sort of cover on it and get fixed up, I don't want all of these little frillies kind of poking through and making it more uncomfortable. So I'm gonna basically just cut all these off wherever they're falling off entirely. We'll just cut them out and not have to worry about them. Sucks to have to cut up the original part of the seat, but I'd rather not have sharp pieces of vinyl poking me through a cover. So we'll just cut them as far back as we can without having to cut the seat apart. And that's pretty much it. Just a few seconds of pruning will really help out in the long run of not hurting my butt. The goal for the future eventually is to hopefully get this seat recovered to its original spec, but it's going to cost a lot of money to do that because, well, 60s full-size Fords don't exactly have cheap upholstery, and I would really have to go get this made by like SMS Auto Fabrics in order to get the correct material for this deluxe Venetian Aqua. So anyways, that's much better, and now it'll feel a little bit better to ride on this seat. I might tuck a towel or something under here. But first, we're going to take a vacuum. Almost kind of forgot what it's called. Shop vac. There it is. And vacuum up all the dirt that is in this thing and crap, because it is everywhere. Oh man, it's everywhere. Okay, next thing I'm gonna do is tear out the headliner. As you can see, it's falling apart and it's basically gone. So I gotta tear out the entire thing just so that I can even see, because as you can see, it's sagging quite a bit. Actually, I'll show you the front here. I'm also gonna take out all that padding because I am gonna be replacing it. I'm gonna be using some kill mat up in the roof as well as probably jute to retain the thickness of the insulation. It's really only over the two seating positions, so that's nice. But yeah, let's take that out now. Okay, so I've got our headliner completely out, as you can see. And what's crazy is that you can already start to feel the heat. So you can already start to feel the heat coming in from the roof. And now I have a whole mess to clean up, and I am covered in fiberglass and dust. So I'm gonna go ahead and shop vac the entire car again to get out all the dust that I just released. And then we'll move on to the next thing. Open this back up. And we're gonna flip this guy. Actually, real quick, I need to fix that. Doesn't fit so well, so we're gonna make it. That's better. We'll fix that later, but for now, At least it folds. So fold this back, and that comes up. And this comes up. I think this is supposed to be power steering hose for the one that's leaking, but the fact that it's not on the car kind of gives me the idea that it might not be the right one. So that's cool. Now, one of the things that makes wagons kind of unique is their gas tank. And, well, this one has 3. It's not supposed to. Previous owner put 3 in. I'm assuming during the gas crisis when you could only go to the gas station once or twice a week, even in odd days. If you're older than, I don't know, 45, you'll probably remember. So they put 3 gas tanks in. And I'm assuming they filled them all up so that they only had to fill up once or twice a month. Must have been pretty expensive at the time, you know, when it was 25 cents a gallon. But, hey, what are you going to do about it? So, I got to deal with 3 gas tanks, and I'm actually only going to go back to having 1 gas tank. I'm pretty sure they're pretty large gas tanks for the most part, so I don't think that I will be needing multiple gas tanks. Plus, well, 2 of them are a little dangerous. If you look on this side, I don't know if you can actually see it, but on this side we actually have another Wagon gas tank that they must have got from some other Wagon, either in a junkyard or maybe went to the dealer. I don't know. But this is a Wagon-only gas tank. They're very specific to Wagons because regular Galaxies had them over here underneath, and they were not the same as this. So it's kind of cool that I have 2 of them so that if one of them is really bad, I can, well, try to use the other one. The gas tank that's under here is actually a Mustang gas tank from, I think, like a 64, 65, you know, first-gen Mustang. They just cut a big hole and plopped it right down on in and called it DUN done. So we're going to be fixing that because I do want to use these seats and not have an exploding tank underneath. Plus, it's got a bunch of holes because it's been dragging the ground because guess what? This wagon's kind of low, and when you drop a gas tank that sticks out further than the floor, it's the lowest spot on the body. So what I'm going to do now is go ahead and take this gas tank out first so that I can get access back to my spare tire well and basically put back our spare tire cover and keep that back at original. Now what you want to do when you put multiple gas tanks in your vehicle is take some carpet and some t-shirts and go ahead and stuff them in there so when it leaks fuel everywhere, because you fill it up from the inside, these get nice and coated in fuel and light your car on fire. I don't actually know how this gas tank is in here. It kind of feels like it's just shoved in here, although maybe the bottom is attached somehow. I might have to take off this panel here because it does stick out, although maybe not. Oh boy. Okay, well, I just had to take the hose off, but this thing's full of gas and a lot of it. But now I've got it most of the way up. Okay. Woo! There it is. Slide this puppy out. Oh, yeah. Oh boy. That was not pleasant. But it's out. It definitely has at least 2 or 3 gallons of gas in it, if not more. And it's a lot heavier than it should be. It also smells terrible, so that might not be good. That's a lot bigger than I expected it to be. And now, we got all this carpet. Oh boy. I don't even know what that is. It looks like metal. And now we got this giant hole where the spare tire is supposed to go. Oh God, I can't breathe. So now we have our spare tire well back. That was not fun. And I don't actually know if this tank is gonna be any good to us. They bent over all the corners, so it's not leaking now, but I'm a little worried about leaking eventually. But it is good looking. It doesn't look good inside. It smells terrible. The gas is, I mean, it's at least 30 or 40-year-old gas. It's definitely bad. Definitely bad. Interesting choices. What's sad is that Ford actually probably could have made a dual tank wagon because it does fit in there. You'd lose your spare tire, But if you had a spare tire, if you didn't have a 8-passenger and you just had a storage area, spare tire could go in the storage area. You could have a dual tank and put one on that side. It just needs to flip the part for the nozzle. But anyways, I'm going to clean all this up, and then we're going to get into these seats and try to figure out that situation. Okay, now you got a better look at our 8-passenger seating here, which, as you can see, there's a gas tank right down here in the center. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is empty this entire thing out. And here's actually, this seat's already loose, and I knew that. And it just bolts on with 2 sliding brackets right there. And this seat's in great shape. All these seats in the back are actually in really good shape, so I'm going to make sure to keep them that way. I don't want them to get ruined at all. Just going to clean them up and use them. This one, I believe, is still bolted down, so we'll have to undo that. But now we get to find all the cool stuff that was left for us in here. This kind of tells you the story of the car a little bit. Well, first thing is we have our jack, which is cool, because that's a pretty neat thing to have. We have here what looks to be either some sort of throttle cable or kickdown wire. Kind of looks like the throttle cable. Looks like a brand new one, actually. So there might be a reason that this exists, although I know the one on the car does technically work. It doesn't work great, but it does work, so we'll see. Carpet pack, Felpro. I don't know what this is. I guess gasket material? I don't know. It's trash to me. Ah, and that's really cool. That's actually, if you can see that, I'll see if I can get it up here. There's so much nasty carpet foam in here. And we got a paper bag of some sort. Might need to look inside that. There's a thermostat that looks brand new. But down here, this is so hard to actually do from this position. Take all this crap out. We have our original floor mat that went on the floor originally. That is not going to survive. They glued it to the gas tank. I'm going to go ahead and take a seat here. Continue throwing crap out. So anyways, what it looks like happened is they actually cut the floor mat, because I can see it continuing into the spot, because under here there's actually a ton of space that is totally unused, and I can see some more of the mat. There's a line for air shocks. This thing has some sort of air shock system on it. And here's a chunk of our carpet, our nasty orange and yellow carpet. That's disgusting. Straight out of the 70s. Tons of rags. Hope there's no dead animals in here. Just a bunch of crap. Paperwork. I'm seeing a newspaper clipping and a... What is this? An oil filter. Here. Auto's Lifeline. This is a really awesome old box. That's cool. It's too bad it's so bad. Okay, so here's what we're looking at. I got as much of the mat up as I could, and as you can see, that one part in the center, it is just glued down. And the tank that's in here actually looks really nice. I actually don't know exactly what it came out of, but you can see they put it off center a little bit. It's off towards this side more. And one of the things they did, which I'm kind of annoyed about, was this piece on this side, they took it off of this side, and I don't know why, and I'm missing my seat belt and my bracket from that side. So for some reason, everything here on, what is that, the passenger side is just missing. So I'm going to have to get seat belts as well as that those 2 brackets, but that's okay. And if you look right there, that's our switch from our tanks, and there's a big M that says, I'm assuming main. And since this thing had 3 tanks, they had to use one of those truck things. Anyways, I'm at the point though where, oh, I do want to show you actually. This also was in there. This really awesome, let's see if I can, hello? There it is. This ring was just sitting in there. And as you can see, it's got this beautiful little blue jewel. It's not anything special. It's, you know, kind of a cheap ring. It is sterling silver, but that's about it. But I think it's pretty cool. I just found it in that corner over there. And I, focus. I think it's pretty cool that it was just in the car. So one of the other things that they did was, I don't know if you can see, but they actually used, I think those are roofing. They might be carpet, but they're like nails and wood. And they built up the gas tank to sit up higher at the back here, as well as the sides. And that's what they nailed the carpet into. So the carpet was actually nailed into that. So that's kind of interesting. So anyways, I'm at the point where I actually can't take this tank out because they didn't use any captive bolts or anything like that. So I'm going to have to wait till I have help from someone to be on this side holding a wrench while I go underneath and undo them all. Because I think there's about 10 or 15 in total. So what I'm going to do now is, since I can't get it out, I'm actually just going to leave it for the moment. And I'll go ahead and just spray and clean this entire floor. And you'll see this entire floor go from this dirty, nasty mess to a nice clean one. And we'll clean all the seats and get this whole back area completely clean. So let's do that. Well, welcome back. For you, it's been probably a split second. For me, it's been 2 weeks. I took on a job that was urgent and needed to happen ASAP. So that's what I did. And so for the last 2 weeks, I've pretty much been working 12 to 14 hour days. You know how it goes. Wake up, go to work, come home, go to sleep, repeat that all over for about 13 days straight. So that was rough. So I didn't have any time to work on this thing at all, which hence last week not having a post and hopefully getting this out today, the day I'm recording this. I'm recording this on Mondays, so hopefully it's out today. But we're back. My voice is here, but also there and kind of everywhere at this point. Right now, though, we're doing brakes. Got to get brakes on this thing. Got to make sure this thing can stop. Because if it doesn't, well, you know, we just don't stop and run into a wall or something, total the car. And I'd rather not do that. I have lots of fun plans planned out for this thing in the short, hopefully near future. So let's get this thing jacked up in all four corners just so we don't have to deal with the jack or anything. Put it on some jack stands and try to get these brakes knocked out, hopefully very quickly. Let's do that. Now, when I pulled this thing out of its hole after sitting for 30 years, it actually did not have locked up drums, surprisingly. Gotta get the wheel lock off. It actually rolled immediately without even struggling. So, suffice to say, I probably got lucky. Now, my impact socket is actually too thick to fit inside these Cragar GTs, so gotta use a chrome socket. And there we go. There's all the lug nuts. Gotta make sure I grab all these washers. Now, originally, my plan was to use these Cragar GTs, but I think I have a better idea that many of you will like seeing much more. So, as you may or may not be able to see, there's a lot of fluid on the ground there. And there's a lot of fluid on this brake drum. This hose right back here completely broke and just poured everywhere. So, good thing I got more of those. Now we got to get this dust cap off, which literally just fell off. Interesting. And take a look into that, which, wow, that looks really bad actually. It looks extremely rusty, like it wasn't fully greased. That cotter pin has seen better days. Alright. Now, to my knowledge, this is the only side of the brakes, part of the brakes that has the bad rubber hose. However, I do have new rubber hose for all of them, and if this one went bad as easy as it did, I'm sure the other ones will. There's one on the other side, and then there's one on the rear end that splits it over. So we'll just loosen that. Comes right off. Wiggle a little bit, bearings pop out. At least the washer does. Now I'm hoping these bearings are in good enough shape that I can reuse them. And I think they probably are, but we'll check them and make sure. Okay, there's the outer bearing. And let's see if we can just pull this thing off. Kind of seems like we can. Oh yeah, come on. There it goes. All right. That was real easy. It pays to live in California, but oh Lord, we're going to have to clean that up because it is covered in... looks like it's covered in grease. It's probably brake fluid, but it really looks like grease. In fact, this rear seal kind of looks like it wasn't doing its job, but we'll sit down our brake drum, take a look at our brakes. Okie dokie. So, let's look at what we got here. We have our brake lines, our rear and our two fronts. The rear has a bracket on it. We've got new rear seals, so that's awesome. So I might be able to replace those. That would be pretty neat. Let's see, we've got boxes that were for wheel cylinder parts, but we'll see if we have them. So this is an adjuster for the right, although I'm not sure if it's right rear or front. And this is left, so blue is left and gold is right. Okay, so we have rear wheel cylinders, not fronts. The fronts I have rebuild kits for, but I have full rear cylinders. So this is right rear, this is left rear. These are the wheel cylinder repair kits for the front. We have our spring kit for left and right front. So all new springs, which I only see 3 and then 2. And there's definitely a lot more than that in here. So that'll be interesting to figure out. And then we have our pads, which this one is covered in oil or something. Guess they probably are from the factory. And they are marked, I'm assuming rear and front. Yes, rears and fronts. So I guess let's do it. Let's put up a time lapse and get to it. Okay, so I've got our brakes disassembled. It took me a minute to figure out how it all went, but I've got our master cylinder torn apart, and I'll show you that in just a second. But I am realizing very quickly that I do not have enough brake cleaner to do this entire job. I definitely am going to need a lot more. So I'm going to run to the parts store real quick, grab a bunch of brake cleaner, maybe some rags and things, 'cause I'm starting to run out, and then be back and show you the master cylinder and basically put it all back together. So let's do that. All right, back from the parts store. Got a bunch more parts cleaner because I had 1 can, and I know for a fact that's not going to be enough. We make do. So we've got our wheel cylinder here, and it's a Bendix, part number 2225023R. I'm assuming that's R for right. I don't know. Doesn't matter. But we have our wheel cylinder here. As you can see, it's all taken apart. We have our caps and our spring that goes on the inside. And it wasn't in terrible shape, just leaking. It just needed a rebuild pretty much because it was leaking. So we're just going to clean it up really good. We're actually going to take some steel wool and go ahead and clean out the inside because one side did have a little bit of rust in it that you will not be able to see, but it did. So we can clean this. Spray it down real good and wipe it down. Okay, that should be more than enough. Just enough to get these things sliding around. So we'll set our first cup rubber seal in there. Set our spring down in there. And then set our cap, which this is our rear cap that was a little sticky, like this. Make sure it doesn't get stuck in any way. And then take our cap, our brake cylinder cap, working. So if I push on this side, the spring pushes it out the other way. If I push on this side, it pushes it out the other way. So we've now got a completely rebuilt wheel cylinder. Get our new rubber piece, shove it in, and set it in our new wheel cylinder. Just like this. Just get the rubber around. There it is, and now we have a rebuilt wheel cylinder. And now we get to put on the new hose, which is over here. I have 2 of them, one for the right, one for the left. That is definitely the rear. But we take one of these, and it does not have a copper crush washer, so I actually have to steal the old one that's on our old brake line, which I don't love doing, but don't have a choice. I'd rather have it than not, even if it is used. So I'll just give it a quick little clean. Yep, so copper crush washer, place it on, and now we can thread on our new line. Just like this. At least not at the moment. And we'll fish this through. Okay, and now we actually have to clean our washer that goes over this whole thing. It's supposed to fit on like this, and then that gets bent over. However, it's bent over the opposite way where our nut is, which maybe it's supposed to be like that. Who knows? And thread that back on. Okay, get in here. All right, now we're on to the pads, and we have our pads here, which, yeah, okay. So we have our pads, and if you don't know, these are self-energizing brakes. So the longer pad goes towards the rear of the car, and the shoulder pad goes towards the front. So we'll put this one on just to see what it looks like. But, you know, we'll figure it out. And I know this is not the right order to be putting all this on. That's the order I'm going to do. And am I going to struggle later when I have to do the springs? You betcha. Okay, I have no clue what actually happened, but I got it done. As you can see, that's the way it goes. Black in the back and brown on the front, and then blue on the bottom. And then that cable actually gets wrapped around the back end. I was struggling for a split second on it. The one that came off had none of that. So I had to go look it up and figure out where it actually needed to go. Luckily I found it, and I believe it is all together correctly now. So yeah, that cable I believe is what helps keep the self-energizing brakes happening. Then again, I'm not a drum brake expert, so, you know, just ignore me. Anyways, it's together. That's what it looks like. And now, the fun part of repacking bearings, cleaning this drum out, cleaning the brake pads, and putting it back on. So let's do that now. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and actually make a box of our old parts. Yeah, that's definitely not what you want to see on your drum. This might take a while, so I'll be here cleaning this probably for 15 minutes. Make sure this thing's full of grease. And don't even bother taking out the old grease. Just shove some new stuff in there. It'll be fine. It will be fine. Okay. There it goes. Okay. That worked. Just make sure they're all filled up. And we'll shove it on there. Make sure we got some nice grease on the inner race. Okay, thread this back on. All right, find a cotter pin. It's the right size. I got a whole box here. That looks to be correct. Just wipe off all their excess. All right, of course, right when I come and do this, helicopter's right above, but we have one side done, so neat. I still have to go and do the adjuster on the back side of it, but I will do that after I finish the rest, because this already took way longer than it should have been, even though I wasn't fighting anything almost at all. But now I get to go do the driver's side, and then get to do the passenger, or what? No. Then I get to do the rear. And once I do the rear, then we have brakes, hopefully. Please. Anyways, I'm gonna go ahead and do that, and I guess I'll throw up a time lapse or something, because I mean, it's the same thing all the way around. No difference, really, at all. Rear is gonna be slightly different, not much. So, I guess let's do that now. All right, as you can see, I am in different clothes. No longer in the overalls for now, because it is the next day. Because it's the next day. So, couldn't finish up yesterday. It was really killing my back, and now my arm's all messed up. This stuff just kills you. But decided to finish the rear brakes today. Went by much, much faster than the front, and actually went way smoother. Didn't have to grease anything because it's on the axle. Nothing was stuck back here, so that was cool. Yeah, no major issues. I still have to change out our rear separator line, because although that one isn't leaking yet, it's probably original, and since I'm here, I might as well do it since I still got to bleed the brakes, and I have a brand new one. It's going to be a pain in the butt, I'm sure, but it'll get done, and it will be better than it was, hopefully. But anyways, I still have to adjust the rear brakes with the adjusters. I started to do this one a little bit, but it's just kind of hard to do without putting the car fully in neutral and, well, adjusting it. And I actually already started taking off the gas tank, as you can see, because pretty much the last things I want to do for this video today is drop this gas tank and get it cleaned out, and hopefully drop the one that's inside the car as well. That one I need help with, but this one I can hopefully drop by myself. Maybe I'll have to put the jack up. It is empty, and it's basically just a bolt, a single nut on a strap. But got our brakes done. So pretty much just drop the 2 tanks, do this other brake line, and we're done for now, I guess. I don't know. Still got to clean out the other tank that I took out, and then I got to bleed all the brakes. I do have to do that. That will not be fun because won't be fun. And then hopefully this thing will have full and complete safe brakes. So, see you then. All right, well, it's been a few days, not for you, but for me. I had some issues, so to speak, with the brakes. Got them all figured out, did the rears, which was almost identical to the fronts, and except for the parking brake, of course. Went to bleed them and was getting no travel anywhere. So that happened, but got it fixed. Just needed to bleed them all. Anyways, we're moving on because as you can see, this thing is still on jack stands, and I'd like to take it off. But before I take it off, well, we got to deal with the gas tank. And I guess I didn't even show you taking out the gas tank. It was pretty easy. Just had one cover panel and then one bolt on a strap, and the strap actually is pretty rough, so we have to wire wheel that before we can use it. But got the old gas tank out, and this is actually the one that was right there in the spare tire well on the passenger side. And it had about 3 gallons of gas in it. I went ahead and poured out basically all of that nasty gas that was dark red into a container for it to evaporate. And what we have left is a really nasty, dirty gas tank. So what we're going to do is take out our sending unit and just pray a little bit that it's not bad, because I'm sure I will not be able to get another one, honestly, because guess what? It's a Wagon. Nobody makes Wagon parts, and I'm sure the sending unit is Wagon specific. So I do have 2 to work with if this one's really bad or if that one's really bad, either or. Hopefully this one's good enough to use. We can clean it up and use it. But we got to take the sending unit out, and then got to wash this bad boy. And I'm going to show you how we do that using some Drano and some lug nuts. Let's open up this gas tank. Now, realistically, you'd probably want to do this with a brass punch, but I can't find mine right now, so this is our next best thing. Plus, the gas that's in here, well, it's been sitting for 30 years, so I don't think it would light on fire even if you took a flamethrower to it. But you'd want to use a brass punch so that if there are any sparks, they don't happen to ignite the fuel. And knock it out, just like that. And yeah, it's gonna be fun. Oh, there it goes. All right, let's see how bad it is. So, it's definitely bad. Oh boy. Yeah. It's not the worst I've seen. It's definitely not the best. So that's not great. Let's see if we can clean this up to use it, but I have a feeling that's not going to happen. So I'm going to also take the sending unit off the other tank and see how bad that one is. Just set that there. Okay, after just spilling a bunch of nasty putrid gas all over my glove and hand, that's great. The way we're gonna do this is, well, I had a little bit of gas left. I had a little bit of gas left in my temporary tank up front, and I actually poured it in here just so I could swirl it around and get any last drop of the old bad gas and varnish. Try to get that all out before I start with the Drano and the lug nuts. But the way it's gonna work is I'm gonna take this tape right here and I'm gonna this is just regular old duct tape, old stuff too. Hopefully it sticks good. I did before when I did this on my 62 Thunderbird tank, which was much worse than this. Gonna tape up the holes, leave one open for now, and we're gonna drop in a bunch of lug nuts. Now you could use bolts, nails, you know, whatever you got, but I like the lug nuts because they've got weight and they've got harsh edges and some soft edges because I'm using conical lug nuts. So, and they roll around good because they're circular, so they roll around really nice. But you got to make sure you can't just dump a bunch of random bolts and lug nuts inside your fuel tank. I'm going to count them, and that's also why I like using lug nuts, because they're large, so I can count however many I have, because you want to make sure that when you dump them all out after you're done cleaning, you get the right amount. You don't want to have a lug nut rolling around in there over and over and over for the rest of your career with that car. So I'm going to count them, drop them all in. We're going to put a little bit of Drano crystals. I'll show it to you. We're going to use this stuff. Now this is an older can, but this is the good stuff. Crystals, kitchen crystals, Drano. This has lye, and that lye is going to help to basically break down all of the nastiness inside the tank and clean it up real good. I only have about half a bottle here, but I'm not going to even use that much. Probably be half of a bottle. And we'll dump it in there, mix it with some water, and shake it around, let it sit, shake it around, let it sit, and do that a bunch of times, and hopefully clean our tank all nice and neat. All right, well, after that, what I have here is 16 of my factory lug nuts, so these are going to get a nice cleaning. I made sure to count them. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 16. And then we've got our Drano here. Now, I'm wearing gloves because this stuff's really nasty. You really don't want to get it on your skin, especially once water comes in contact with it. Got to break mine up a bit. So I'm going to go ahead and cover up the holes as best I can. Now, we've got 16 lug nuts, a handful of already wet Drano that is clumped up. We taped up one of our holes, and we're going to fill it with water and tape up the other hole. We don't need it watertight, just close enough. All I'm going to do now is fill it up. We don't need a ton, but just enough to get that Drano working. Nice and cool, but just enough to get the lug nuts moving and the Drano working. Well, 2 more. Never can have too much. It's all going to be ripped off eventually. Anyways, this isn't permanent like if you were doing a fuel line with duct tape. Okay. And now the fun part. You just sit here. You hear that? That's the sound of it working. And we'll just turn it. Well, it's already starting to pour out the top. We're probably a little airtight. And you just shake it around a bunch. You want to make sure it all gets mixed up. We'll leave it sit for a while. We'll come back, shake it some more. Probably leave it for a few hours, let it do its thing. And then we will pour it out. And if we need to do more, we'll do more. But for now, this is good. Okay, and while our solution in our gas tank is soaking, I guess, we're gonna go ahead, take this gas tank hook. This is what it looks like. And as you can see, I did not get the nut fully off here before the hook just fell out. We're gonna take this, go wire wheel it a bit, especially on the threads. They aren't super rusty, but they're rough. And then we're gonna try to get this nut off, make sure it's nice and clean, and probably put some oil or something on it so that it doesn't rust up like this in the future, at least not nearly as bad when I foreseeably have to drop the tank again. So let's go wire wheel it. Okay, there you go. I don't know if you can actually see that because I can tell that it's really bright, but it's much cleaner now, not rusty, and I can actually run it in and out, which is good, because before I couldn't. So I'm gonna go ahead and just put on some WD-40 or some sort of just lubricant, oil-based lubricant to keep this thing oiled, and then boom, we have our gas tank hold down hook. So anyways, let's finish up on this gas tank. Hey, so this is the end of the video. Nice. Got what I could done. We did some things in this video, as you just watched. We cleaned up the rear of the car, cleaned up the entire interior of the car, as best we could at least, for the moment. And we did our brakes. That was pretty neat. I wasn't able to show you a lot of what happened, but the whole bleeding the brakes was just a mess. But it got done, and it's actually been done for a few days. I did end up pouring out the gas tank. I didn't show you because it ended up taking me about 20 minutes to get all the lug nuts out, and I sat there doing that for 20 minutes because the lug nuts, just the way the tank was made, it didn't have a lowest point on either of the two openings. So anyways, gas tank is clean now, at least as clean as we're gonna get it. It still smells like old gas, and as we put gas in it over time, it will get better. It'll clean out the varnish, clean out the rust more. We just need to fill it up a bunch and go through it a bunch, and it will clean itself out. We have not cleaned our sending unit yet. That is for next video. And we have not put the tank back in yet, so you didn't miss anything. It's just sitting right in the back of the wagon there. Anyways, this is going to be it for this video today. This is basically part one of getting this 66 Ford wagon back on the road. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked it, leave a like, leave a comment down below, subscribe, leave me some feedback. This video was kind of rough to make, and it was actually made over the course of about 4 weeks, just because of the job that I had to take on last minute that took 2 weeks of my life. And so it was just hard to work on this thing. So thank you for bearing with me. I apologize for not posting the last 2 weeks, but we're here today. And then next week for sure, we'll have the next step of getting this thing back on the road. My goal for next week is to get the gas tank back in, finish putting a full fuel system back in this thing and getting it running on its own fuel system, as well as doing a full tune-up on the front, replacing our water pump, replacing our power steering line, whatever we can do to get this thing running and driving good again and back on the ground, really, now that we have brakes. And hopefully soon, and actually I know for a fact soon, we're getting a new windshield, we're getting a new headliner, we're getting a new carpet, we're getting new tires and new wheels. So stay tuned because you're going to see it all here on Cherry Pickin'. And so thank you again for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please let me know. Leave me feedback even if you didn't like it. And real quick, shout out to my #1 fan, Parker. Thank you, bud. He's my nephew and he watches all these videos. So thanks, Parker. You're the man. See you next week.